the breakfast, and usually it would be the home cured rashers, which would be very thick, cut very thick, and that we would have killed the pig ourselves. And my parents would have put I remember the killing of the pig. I remember the filling of the puddings, using the pinhole oats, and that was very important to have pinhole oats instead of regular oats.
Why? What's the difference?
They seemingly regular oats would swell up, whereas these pinhole would keep their shape, and they were all part of the pudding. And to put in, you'd have onions and salt and all these seasonings. And it was my grandmother that would have been in charge of that. But then they'd have to be, so that the gut of the pig, the intestine, would be scraped out, and then to be soaked in salty water overnight. But you couldn't, and we'd be even scraping the intestine, but you couldn't nip the intestine, because if you did, then the filling would come out when they'd be filling it. So then you scrape this stuff out, and it would be like a silk stocking when it was all done, and then they'd put into a funnel, and they'd be squeezing down then the meat. It wasn't even meat; it was blood and pinhole oats, and the what else was in the seasonings, and the onions cut very fine. And so then they'd be put in. They'd be tied. The knots would be tied, and then they'd be all boiled in a pot. And so that would be the black puddings. And then the meat that they would have for rashers, they'd cut that into pieces, and put it into, rub salt in all the crevices, rub salt in everywhere, and then put it into a barrel. It couldn't be into, and it had to be into wooden, because if it was into anything that was metal, it would rust. Yeah, and then they'd put it in and put salt in between each layer. And then after about a day or 2 days, you'd see all the blood running out, and there'd be a smell from it after a while.
Where was that done? Like in a barn?
But to be in a barn, yeah. And then they'd after a couple of months, then they'd hang it up, and that's what they'd cut then to be a big piece of meat, and that they'd be cutting it then from each to make the rashers.
And now you're talking about the puddings. How would they be kept fresh? Would they, or would you just kind of use them?
You would give some to the neighbours, and the neighbours, when you killed a pig, you'd always give something to the neighbours, because then they'd give you something back. So when you didn't have a pig, they'd give one back, And so the puddings would last for a while, definitely, Yeah.
Because they were refrigerated as long as you kept them cold? Or?
I don't know. All I know is that we ate them, and let me tell you, you knew, and it would be for a while, you knew it was good times ahead. Yeah.
And now, were you actually? Would you have taken part in the killing of a pig?
Oh yeah, my God, yeah. Oh yeah. You would, and you'd be around, because you knew that it was going to be a hectic day. So because the pig would be lifted up, and is this too graphic for? No.
Right.
So you lift the pig up, and my father would be that, and he'd have one or two neighbours. They'd lift the pig up by the back legs, and then he would stick the pig, but you couldn't stick him too long, because you'd hit the heart. Okay, and when he'd be stuck, his two legs would go up like that, and he could actually take your own head off you. Then my mother would be running in with the basin, to be a big basin about that size, and to be usually aluminum. And they would you'd make sure you'd try and keep the pig from rocking over and back, because the blood would be rocking over and back, and you only had about up to 5 minutes to gather the blood. And so then the pig would be taken off, and he would be when he's dead, and he'd be bled a bit to make sure the blood went out, and then there'd be a Burker boiler that would be going for a couple of hours. And that had very, very hot water in it, boiling, and that would be thrown on the pig. And the hair, because the pigs are very hairy, the hair would be scraped off. And so you'd be scraping, your blade would be like that when you'd be scraping, it'd be like that to get the hairs off the pig. And then he'd be hung up again, and he'd be gutted. and so they'd keep the heart and the liver, and they definitely the most important part was the intestines, the large and small intestine to scrape the puddings, to scrape.
So, growing up on a farm, did you get attached to any of the animals? And then, I'm just wondering how you separate that life from death type. If I had a dog and something happened to it, I would have been all upset. Was it more? How did you get that practical thing of this is what we do?
You got it from when you were a day old. So you'd look like, and you'd have they'd have designated heifer for the freezer. So you knew was that that you'd have good food when to go, to the abattoir. And I had a pet calf that grew up and then to sold. But you didn't there was a lot more behind them, So you didn't have attachment to them.
It was more of a practical.
It was a practical, but you respected it. Like it was a respect, a respect for food and where it came from and what. Yeah. That's
interesting. What did you play sports? Were you involved in sports?
I no, because my parents, like with the farm and everything else, my parents would have said, "Hey, that's it wouldn't have, that would have been for if you had nothing to do, fine, but you have a lot of work to do, man."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then, how same kind of thing for music or dance or things like that? Did you get involved?
Mother was into music and into that kind of stuff. So we went for guitar lessons and piano lessons. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And did you have a party piece?
We had a party piece, definitely. Yeah,
And
definitely.
what was your party piece?
Whenever people came around, you had a sing song. Funerals were usually, it all depended. If they were very, very close to you, it wouldn't have been. If it was sad, but if it was an elderly person or that, yeah, you definitely, and you'd have your songs. You'd have what had I? I definitely had. I think it was the Rosa Trulli. There was a couple of them in it. Yeah. Yeah, because my mother would have had, you knew the people that were always called on. My mother would have been definitely called on, so she would emphasize to us, hey, you have your stuff ready because and you'd if you did it once, you knew that the people would know that you have a good voice or that you can do something.
That you can sing.
Yeah, so that they would. Yeah.
Have you kept it up?
Yeah, I've always had, and we've always my kids. Yeah, definitely we do have the. For all the occasions, we would, I do, yeah, if there's ever get together or even outside, if we're in a pub and people start up, we would always have an old sing song, yeah.
And would you sing something right now? Sing a little bit of your party?
I will, so okay.
Right.
Wow. Now, what'll be? Oh, Danny Boy, so is that okay? Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The sun is gone and all the flowers are dying. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come you back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Thank you.
That was lovely.
Peg, I didn't realize this was coming.
That's what makes this interesting, isn't it? Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something about celebrating Christmas at your house.
Christmas was always, Christmas would have started in July for us, June, because it would start with the turkeys that my mother would have ordered the day-old turkeys, and that was our ticket to Christmas. So if anything happened to those turkeys, we knew that it was going to be, a bleak Christmas. So she'd get about anything between 25 and 50 turkeys in June, I think it was June actually. And so she'd feed them all. She'd have an infrared lamp on them, and then she would take care of them up to Christmas. And then about the week before Christmas, we would we'd be plucking them, killing them and plucking them, and have them New York dressed, and we would have them in for the markets, the Limerick market. And she'd only pluck a couple of them because they'd be killed and plucked inside the market. So you'd go to the market about 4 or 5 days before Christmas, and you'd haggle with someone the price is pound per pound for the turkey, and then the turkey be weighed live, and then to be taken over, and someone would pay someone to pluck them and kill them and pluck them. And then the housewife then would bring him home with the legs on, head on, and all intestines, and she'd clean him out at home and have him ready for Christmas.
So the success of the turkey breeding.
The success of she wouldn't breed them, she'd just buy them in from a hatchery or something. So she would the Christmas, how good it would be would depend on how much the turkeys were making that Christmas, and how many of them she sold. And all that, and so that's what we would. So it would start in July, and then to be very busy for about 2 days before Christmas, because we'd be getting them. We'd be going to the marts and that kind of stuff with him, and then so she would be making the Christmas cake and the Christmas pudding, and all that kind of stuff, before Christmas too.
Yeah. Did you have a Christmas tree?
We had always had a Christmas tree, yeah, definitely, and but there wouldn't be much emphasis on it, honestly. And I say there was years that there wasn't actually. Now coming to think of it, that there wouldn't have been a Christmas tree, but like you'd have going to devotions and going here, there, and everything, and all that kind of stuff, for masses and all that kind of thing, and but Christmas Day would have been a big deal with the turkey and ham. She'd have the ham with the turkey, because if you didn't have ham with the turkey, it was no point in having a Christmas dinner. And then she'd have the Christmas cake, and the icing then would be as hard as a rock, just like the stuff that you use on the walls there.
Plaster.
Plaster, exactly. Especially for kids, It was lovely and sweet because it was solid sugar.
Yeah.
But then she'd have the Christmas pudding as well.
And do you still do that now with Jen? Be likely to make Christmas pudding?
We did. Even when I lived here for time being, we always had to go into the Bronx and buy them,
Right.
and bring them out. Now it's an acquired taste.
I understand that. Yes, I do understand that. And so it would be more centered on the religious aspects. Christmas would be.
Christmas always the religious aspect. Yeah. Let me tell you. Yeah.
Okay. And the church was a real important part of your life growing up.
The church was where it was. To get a job, you had to get a reference from your parish priest.
Oh my goodness.
To get confirmed parish priest, everything was and you'd have been like he took him around every so often to the house, and you would definitely.
And then of course having uncles that were priests
probably
made
priests.
Your family a little bit more.
Yeah, you'd have to be dragged in. They'd go in to take mass to the local convent, so you'd be dragged in there, and you'd have to let on that you knew how to respond to mass and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And when somebody died in your family, was they laid out at home, or was it a funeral home type of a situation?
It was when someone died, they would have been. My grandparents were laid out at home. Yeah. And even they would have been if they were dying. I remember my grandfather, when he was dying, that they would have before they knew he was going to go, and some would have stayed up with him all night and all day, and then when he died, straight away people would have been called in to wash the body and to lay him out in the home. And then I can remember my grandfather's funeral at home, there would have been people coming in all the time, and you would have beer and whiskey, and the turkeys would have been taken out of the freezer for that. Definitely, yeah.
And how old were you then?
I would have been about, I'd say 4 or 5. He
So
didn't
you were
die.
fairly young.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And your grandmother lived longer than that, did she?
She did, but she then it was reversed then that you were taken from you if a person died, then you would go from the house to the funeral home,
Okay.
and you would go from it would be all done the one day. If you would go from the funeral home to the church, and then buried from the church that day, that the next day. Yeah.
Well, at some point along here, you decided you were going to come to the States. How did that decision come about, and how did your family feel about that?
I worked in Libya. When the 70s, there was no jobs in Ireland, nothing, and I went to agricultural school after my leaving cert, and then I went to poultry college in Ireland, and then I worked for a year in Ireland, and I couldn't make ends meet, and I was like, they had very little expenses. It was just there was little or no pay, and then I left for Libya. I worked 4 years in Libya, as an agricultural instructor, poultry instructor, and so then I came back to Ireland after 4 years, and I just couldn't settle down. I was on my way to 2 interviews, and I just turned back halfway. And even then there was no jobs, and that was been about the 80s. I remember going for one interview, and your man said to me, you're going to have to take care of 4 children. I was single about 20 years, please. So I turned back, and then my sister, who lives here, she was in America at the time, and she just graduated as a nurse, and she came home for the first time on holidays, and my uncle, who's a priest, and my mother decided that she was going to cleanse our souls, so they took us both to Knock on a pilgrimage for the day.
Just tell us a little bit about Knock while you're saying that.
Knock is a shrine. It's a basilica now. The Pope was there, so and you would go there for a retreat.
And that's in Mayo.
It's in Mayo, yeah. So it'd be about 4-hour drive, 3-hour drive from our place, and so you would have the procession, and you would have mass, and you would have you would go to confession, and it would be a whole day praying and self-reflection. So on the way down to Knock, myself and my sister, we went because we said, hey, keep mother happy, basically, and we said, might be good for a day out. So it was on the way to Knock that my sister said, you should come to America. And as you know, I think I will. So that's when I decided on the way to Knock.
Wow. So you had good reflection.
Yeah, so there was real good reflection. Yeah. So within a week, I came to America.
And was Breed here already then?
My sister Breed was here, and she graduated as a nurse at that stage.
Did you go to her?
I went to a Sheehan family who were very active with the Hibernians and the Gaelic Club, and they live in Trumbull, Connecticut. And they, when they heard that I was going to come out here, they demanded that they said, "Okay, come and stay with us." They charged me no rent. They charged me nothing for food, and they treated me as one of the family.
And what were their names? Sheehan?
Bob Sheehan and Marge Sheehan. Yeah. They were. I have a lot to be thankful for them, because they started me on my way here.
And what kind of work did you get when you got here?
When I got here, I did. I went and I did busboy and anything. Basically, I remember install moving furniture and putting insulating attics, that kind of stuff. Anything. Yeah. But I was in school. I came here as a student, and I went to Norwalk Community College. Started off in Norwalk Community College, and then I went to Sacred Heart in nursing. Yeah. Started off.
And what was the date that you came here? When did you leave in college?
1980. Yeah. I'd say it would be in the fall of 1980 that I came here. Yeah. So that's when I started off here.
Had you ever been here before for a visit or anything?
I had been here about 2 years before that, when I was in Libya, to visit my sister, because she couldn't come back to Ireland until she became legal. And I loved it here. When I was here for about a week and a half, and even going back on the plane to Libya, I was crying for about 2 hours into the flight. I remember, because the people that were sitting beside me, she started crying.
So you did have it in your heart, kind
I
of in your
think,
head
yeah,
that you might.
there was a magnet. I think at that
Yeah.
stage, the seed was planted. You know, at that stage, that yeah, this is where I would end up.
And when you came, was it for good? I mean, was that in your head or?
Oh, it was totally for good.
It
It
was.
was.
You knew.
I had a mission. The mission was to graduate as a nurse,
Mhm.
to get a green card, and to live here. Yeah, because I liked the lifestyle and everything about the place, and there was work here,
Yeah.
and you could go to school here.